Oh, good afternoon, everyone. It is a beautiful day for this Links to Learning session. Super excited to have our two guest speakers, Jill and Shawna-Kay. They are joining, well, Shawna-Kay is joining us from Airdrie, and Jill is joining us from, well, she's in North Carolina right now, but she originally lives in Nova Scotia. So we welcome our guests. We welcome all of you who are joining. We're super excited for today's webinar. It's a media training presentation, and I think that they're going to bring some really good knowledge, some good tools, and we will walk away stronger and be able to perform some of our, duties, activities, a little bit better. So we're so honored that you joined us this Tuesday afternoon. The sun is shining here in Amiskwaciwa sky again, but it is pretty windy here. Certainly getting ready for spring season. I hope wherever you are that you are well, that you're healthy, that you're happy, and that you're walking in a good way. We give thanks to Creator, for the gift of this day, the gift of this moment that we have an opportunity to gather virtually and learn and just to become better and stronger in what we do in this world. So always giving a shout out to Creator, all the gifts and all of our relations. So I have birds outside of my window. So I always say my relatives are visiting. And we also give thanks to the land and the gift of the sacred waters. So we say today, hi, Creator, for all of the goodness that has been given to us. All right, so links to learning. At the end of today's presentation, there will be an evaluation link sent to you. And when you fill that out, your name will be entered to win a draw. And I believe there are two $50 Visa gift cards up for grabs. So they could be yours. And so we love to hear your feedback. So please fill out those evaluations. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get on to today's presentation. So today's session will help you navigate media pitches, inquiries, and announcements for your organization. Learn how to predict questions, prepare your key messages, and avoid common media traps. You're going to leave feeling equipped with the skills required to take media calls into your own hands, whether on camera or over the phone. I love it. I'm here for it. I brought my notepad and my paper. I'm ready to take all of the information you ladies are bringing this afternoon. So we have Jill McKenzie, who is the communications manager, and Shawna-Kay Thomas, who is the account manager. And this is a Cree word. I am Cree and I'm still learning my language, but I'm going to give it a try. The elders always say, try. So they're from the pipikwan, organization. Is that what we want to call that? So we just invite and welcome you two ladies. Thank you so much for lending your valuable time to be here and to present and just offer some really good knowledge and good resource and good tools. I'm just going to pass this virtual mic over to you both. And so to you, I say, welcome.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm happy to introduce myself first. My name is Jill McKenzie. I am a settler with ancestry from Ireland, England, France, and Germany. I currently live on the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq, which is beautiful Nova Scotia. And I have been working in media relations essentially from the beginning of my career. So that it's been about 16 years now. I've worked for all levels of government, worked a bit in the education sector as well, and have been working with pipikwan. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill, and thanks, Michelle. So I'm Shawna-Kay Thomas. I'm the account manager at pipikwan. I am from Jamaica, but I'm currently residing in Airdrie, Treaty 7 territory, and I've been with pipikwan for the past year. I served as communications manager and then transitioned to account manager. And my background is in media and communications. From Jamaica to here. So I'm happy to be here today and thank you for joining us. Thank you for inviting us. So just a little bit about pipikwan. We are a PR communications firm started in 2016 by Shawnee Gwynn, Métis woman from Edmonton. And it started as a sole entrepreneur kind of venture. And then now we are a team of probably 24, 25 thereabout. Over the past year, we've seen tremendous growth in our team. And I think that's largely due to the fact that there's a need out there for an Indigenous lens to the work for Indigenous people with Indigenous people, which is why Shawnee started the company. Just working with government, she saw the gap where Indigenous communities, Indigenous organizations and peoples needed that support, that communications and public relations support in media, in communications planning and strategy execution. And so pulling a team together that is majority Indigenous has helped that a lot. So we are Indigenous owned, majority staff and led. And we do anything from communication strategy, media relations and training, analytics, digital marketing and advertising, creative development, so videos, social media. And we recently added engagement as an arm of the company. And so we're doing reconciliation and decolonization strategies, we're doing workshops, we're doing engagement for communities or companies, organizations wanting to work with Indigenous communities. So it's exciting times for us. We're still growing faster than we can keep up sometimes, but
yes.
So it's a pleasure to be here today. And Jill and I we're going to be talking with you. I say it's going to be a conversation on media and media relations, how to interact with media, how to prepare for the media, and that kind of thing. So I'll get my PowerPoint set up and then I'll get into it and then I'll hand over to Jill. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And we take questions at the end as well. So just so you know. All right, so let me share my screen. It's been a couple of years now of doing this. I'm hoping we get it right. Okay. Are you seeing? Are you seeing that?
Yes, I see that.
Media training, and then is it moving along?
It is, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so today, just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about, we'll be looking at the media then and now. I'm sure you will agree that there have been quite a few things have changed over the past few years with media. We're going to talk about how to prepare for the media and then how to show up and perform. So we're hoping that by the end of the session, we'll feel confident in speaking to media, confident in approaching media, or even reaching out to media, or responding to them if they're the ones who reach out. We'll leave you with tips and tricks, as well as at the end of the session, we'll be able to share a one-pager with Michelle and team to share with participants as well, just so that you have some, tips and some takeaways to keep on your desk. So the media then and now. Traditional media, as we know, we would categorize it as being like television stations, weekly newspapers, radio, and usually for like daily papers, interviews, they're done in person or over the phone, can be a mix. And it's often taped. Sometimes the reporter just takes notes. They may not tape anything. They just come, have a conversation, take notes, or they call, have a conversation, and they take notes. Many times they're accompanied by a photographer And usually in this situation, we try to caution that you're always on record. So just be mindful of what you say whenever you're in the company of reporters. And then for the weekly papers, there's a longer timeline, maybe once per week. I get weekly papers here in Airdrie where I live, so it's dropped off at the door. For those papers, they will call you for an interview, and you may have a couple days to respond to them because it's not as urgent as the daily papers, who like to turn over stories in a short period of time. Weekly newspapers seldom show up for events in our experience. They're more likely to call to get the story, while daily papers, they want to be like current and relevant on the go. So they're more likely to show up if you're having an event. So just something to keep in mind. If you're having an event and wanting to invite people, daily papers are usually more responsive to showing up than weekly papers. And that's in our experience. Of course, maybe if you have a good relationship with someone from a weekly newspaper, you may get them to attend. So it's never like out of the way to ask if they can attend your event. They don't show much urgency, and they're not acting under pressure because, of course, their timeline is much longer. Then with radio, usually for radio, they will call you at 2 because they need something for 4 o'clock news, or they'll call you at 3 because they need something for 5 o'clock news. It's super urgent. It's always, can we do this now? Most times it's pre-taped interview. So they'll call and they'll let you know what they want to talk about, and then they'll probably call back and do the interview. Sometimes if it's like a evening radio program, like a news program where they have live interviews, or morning shows for live interviews, they may do that as well. But often if it's for a news segment, most times it's pre-recorded. And when it's pre-recorded, that's great because it means that if you mess up, they can edit that because they want you to look your best. So with radio, I personally usually like those ones because they're gonna edit it and make it look good and sound good. Radio, oftentimes they will, I won't say they won't show up for your media events, but because they are not visual, they may not show up for the event. They may call you after the event to get an interview. Or if you're open to interviews before your event, they may do that and then release the clip after the event. For television, on the other hand, they're highly visual, and so they're more likely to show up for your media event. They're gonna show up and they're gonna want to get footage, they wanna get B-roll, they wanna do interviews. Because it's so visual, it's important for them to be there, right? And so for that kind of interview, we have tips of making sure that the place is set up and that you have the right background and those kinds of things for media. And they're also like very urgent. They're looking for interviews on the day. And they love to do live. Like, I think television likes the feeling of live interviews. Though in some circumstances, they may also do pre-recorded interviews and then they edit to fit into their newscast or so on. And again, once the mic is open, you're being recorded. So always be careful of what you're saying, keeping to your messages, and that kind of thing. That's with our traditional media. Then we know in this day and age, we've transitioned a lot. So we're getting information from social media or new media. There's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn. Everywhere, every platform that you open, it's a source for news these days. And so this has created a quicker news cycle, or some people may say there is no news cycle at all. They may tell you that, usually for traditional media, you have 7 a.m. news, midday news, 5 p.m. news. Well, on social media, it's news all day, every day. And the reporter now becomes anyone who has a cell phone. So we refer to that as citizen journalism, where you have a cell phone, you see something happening, you snap it, you put it on your social media platform, and everybody's aware of what's happening. There is more competition with bloggers or vloggers, whatever you call them, on big platforms that we're familiar with, Facebook, Twitter, and so on, but there are also smaller platforms that may not be as familiar. So the landscape has changed. And so in our messaging or planning for showcasing our work or organization, we have to be aware of that as well, and try to change with the times. Now, yeah, so I mentioned with citizen journalism, where everyone has a cell phone, it's moving outside of the traditional media, not TV, radio, or print media. And these people, we don't have formal training. We're just walking around with cell phones and we're snapping pictures and telling the story the way we see it. And oftentimes traditional media may pick up on some of these stories depending on who that person is who's posting. And they may then reach out to the organization that's hosting an event, or there's a complaint about the organization, whatever it is. So social media, citizen journalism is now playing a role in feeding information to traditional media as well. And they don't need a lot, no large resources, no big camera rolling around, no tape recorder to record you. They just need a cell phone. And more these days I'm seeing where radio, like they're just coming with a cell phone, even for radio interviews, right? They're not coming with what they used to in the past. They're coming with a cell phone, they're recording it, and they go back to studio and they get the clip that they want. So why media? Why media? I'm sure we're here because we want to learn about engaging media. We have been engaging media maybe, and we just want to probably, brush up on some of the skills and tips and tricks that we can use. Now, it can be nerve-wracking, it can be time-consuming, but it's important because media provides that platform. If you do it well, it helps you to communicate with a large number of people. So, at any one time, for like global news, for example, their viewership for their 5 p.m. news can be millions and millions of people watching that. And if it's then placed on their online platform, then that's watched over and over again by so many people. So you have a large reach. There's also a risk though, if you don't comment or if someone else comments for you, there's a risk. So it's important that we do engage media whenever the opportunity arises for us to do so. It gives organizations or people the opportunity to talk about our mission, talk about your expertise, talk about your commitment to community, talk about your values, things that are important to you, and how you're supporting the community, helping the community, or give feedback on current issues that may connect with the industry that you're in. Everyone has the ability to share information instantaneously now. And so the more we speak for ourselves, the less likely other people will speak for us. So if we're able to engage media and tell our own story, then we won't have other people telling our stories for us. We have the power to control what the media present about us and how it's presented. If you leave issues to social media or not commenting, then you find that those things can spiral and blow up. And then it's harder to manage those issues, or if those issues become crises, it's much harder to manage than to be proactive in talking to media before other people start talking for you. It's important to talk to media as well, because we need to remain the authority of our business and make sure that the information that's being communicated about our business is timely, it's accurate, and it's getting out to the public. You control the message, you control the timing of it getting out to the message. And when people see that you're credible, knowledgeable, and you're empathetic, it builds a positive reputation. It helps people to connect with you, to think that they can trust you, or they can trust your brand, they can trust your organization. And it makes them feel as though, they know you, like you're familiar, you become familiar. Media demonstrate our service, and the public has the right to know, what you're doing and why. Like if you're a public serving organization and you get the opportunity to share what you're doing and why, I think it's a good opportunity that, you should take up and engage media on. So now that we've talked about like why media is important, how do we prepare for the media? I mentioned that it can be nerve-wracking, the media calls like, radio or TV and hey, this is happening, we'd like to talk with you. And you're like, that's almost like just a spanner in your day. Like I didn't plan for this. But there are ways to prepare. And even though there's urgency, the media also understands that you need to prepare. So we're going to go into how do you prepare for the media? There are 5 things to keep in mind whenever we're considering our media plan or media outreach strategy. And it's the 5 W's and an H, we call it. So it's the what, the when, the why, the where, the who, and the how. These are very important for any story. What is this story about? When is this going to happen, or when did it happen? Why is it important? Why should I care? Why should the media care? Why should anyone care about what I have to say? Where did this happen? Who is involved? Is this person important? Or how did it happen? And sometimes you just jot that down and try to answer those questions. It helps you to form what we will talk about later as your key messages. Some of that helps to form your key messages for speaking to the media. If you can answer these 5 W's and then H. And the H, sorry. And journalists, they want to know this. And if you have the answer for them, they're gonna keep coming back to you. They wanna make sure they're asking these questions, or they want answers to these questions to make sure their story is newsworthy. No reporter wants to carry a story in the 5 p.m. newscast if it's not relevant to their audience, if there is no value in adding it to the newscast. And so while they're looking at these 5 W's and the H, they're considering how timely is this story? Did it happen recently? Or did you just learn about it recently? They want to make sure that it is in good timing. Is there something else that's happening in the society that this story connects with, that your story that they're talking to you about connects with? So the timeliness of the story is important. The impact is also important. Who was affected, or how many were affected by the story that you're telling? Who is invited to your event, if it's an event that you're hosting? Proximity, where is this happening? Do you want the local news? Do you want provincial? Do you want national? What's the closeness of the events that's happening to the people who you want to reach? Proximity, they're gonna be looking for that too in any story that they are talking to you about. Then there's conflict. Now, media like stories that have like debate, or there may be tension. They like that kind of story because it gets people talking and gets people thinking, and maybe there's one side agreeing on this and another side disagreeing. Not to cause a fight or a fuss, but just to bring different perspectives in their story. So they will go for stories that have conflict, not all the time, but these are some of the things that they go for when they're trying to find which story may be of interest to their audience. People disagreeing, stories about conflict, stories that promote debate or expose tension. And they also look for prominence. Are the people involved well known? Does anybody care about these people? Are these people doing great work in their community where they deserve to be highlighted? Is the story current? Is the issue that you're talking about current? Are people talking about it? It's similar to being a timely, but think of larger issues. Is something else happening nationally that you could comment on? As is your company working on something that connects with a national story and you could comment on it? That's something that would be important to media. And then there is novelty, appealing to curiosity. Human interest stories are also lumped in here, playing on the emotions. So, someone who is helping community members who are in need, someone who is creating a space for children to play because of the pandemic and they're locked down. Those kinds of stories that stir your emotion usually get high attention in the media. They may call them like soft news because they're not as, there's not much conflict in those stories. And those ones we would call more hard news because there's more conflict in those. So these are some of the things that when media calls or when you're working on something that you can consider, how timely is this? What's the impact of this? The proximity. How does it connect to your local community? Is there any conflict in this that may be of interest? Who is a prominent person that would add credit to this story? Is the story current, or is this just a human interest story? And considering these things can help you to decide when and how to reach out to media. So after you've considered the 5 W's and the H, as well as these, what we call characteristics of news or good news stories, then you we're looking at the spokesperson and the importance of the spokesperson. Now, in my past job, immediate past, I served as a spokesperson for Better Business Bureau, talking about scams a lot, all day, every day. It was the same message. Don't be scammed, cryptocurrency scam, romance scam. Name the scam, I would talk about it. For radio and TV. And that's important because it keeps the organization in the news and it keeps your mission and your vision in the news while serving the community. So that's why a spokesperson is important. Now, many organizations may not have like one spokesperson identified, but it would be good to have 1 or 2, maybe 3, depending on the structure of your organization. Maybe there's someone who will talk about, general issues related to your industry. Maybe there's another person who is more of an expert on certain areas in your industry. And then maybe there's just the founder or the head of the organization who, because of that person's prominence, would be a good spokesperson for the organization. So it's good to identify who this person is, so that when the media calls, you're able to direct the media to the relevant person who will have the answer that the media is looking for, will be able to interact with media and to boost your credibility with the media. Now, when the media calls, many times, as we mentioned, it's very urgent. It's like, now, can I talk to you about this community event that you're hosting, or the development of this fund that we're hearing, or you just closed a deal with another company? Can we talk to you now? And one of the things that we suggest you keep in mind is to make sure that whatever the media is asking aligns with your vision, your mission, and your values, if you're going to respond. So knowing this information will help you to feel more confident. If it's something they're calling about that it doesn't align with your mission, your vision, and your values, it's not something that you think is within your scope to respond to, it's okay to say, well, this is not something we can respond to. And then you can suggest something else that may have a connection to what they're asking you about. It helps you to interact confidently with the media, and it also helps them to kind of gain trust in you, that if they call you, if you don't have the answer, you will direct them to someone who has the answer, or you'll give them another story that may help to complement the one that they're working on. The spokesperson, we say, represents the organization and is the voice of that group and can strongly influence how the public views your organization or your company. So it's important that whoever is selected as a spokesperson or spokespeople, that they have the trust of the organization first, so that they can build the trust of the people, the public that you're trying to reach with your message. Now, when media calls, there are some things that are important for you to repeat, and those are your key messages. You want to have those throughout your conversation consistently all the time. So this is basically what you want to say to the media. This is your message to the media and to the people. It's stating your position and giving the facts. And these key messages often align with your vision, your mission, and your values. So, you know, it's good as organizations and companies to have a one-pager or two-pager that has mission, vision, values, key messages generally for your company. And if you're having specific event or a specific issue, then key messages related to those issues. So if you're hosting a fair, what are the key messages for that fair? Is the fair to bring the community together? Maybe that's one. Maybe that fair is about building stronger relationships. Maybe that fair will help people to focus on, you know, reconciliation efforts and whatever it is. Make sure that there are, you know, about 4 to 5, we would say, key things that you want to get out if the media calls, and reinforce those messages throughout your interview. It is usually audience focused, so you want to focus on what would my audience want to hear. So for this product that I'm launching, for this event that I'm hosting, for this collaboration that I'm entering in, what would my audience be interested to hear? Maybe they want to hear like the value, how much money are we going to spend on this collaboration? Maybe they want to hear about the impact that this collaboration will have for them and the community. Maybe they want to hear a timeline for this. Maybe they want to hear the end goal. So think about the audience and what the audience wants to hear when you're developing your key messages. And if you know what the audience wants to hear, it's simply putting those into a few sentences. Doesn't have to be long and fancy sentences. Just stick to those throughout your conversations with media, so whether on phone, on camera, or if you're going to be sending a press release to media or reaching out to media, inviting them to your event. Your key messages are going to be important. Now, when media calls, even though they're urgent, it is 100% acceptable for you to interview the interviewer. So in the media calls, it's okay for you to ask them questions in a friendly and conversational tone, of course. So, you know, we recommend that you always ask for time to get back to them. So it could be saying, I'm just wrapping up a meeting. Can I get back to you in 10 minutes? Or I'm just about to head into a meeting. Can I get back to you in 20 minutes? And what this does, it gives you time to develop your key messages or to find some key messages if it's a situation where they're calling about something that they just want you to comment on and you don't necessarily have pre-prepared key messages. It gives you time to draft those and to sketch those out. It gives you time also to think about your potential questions, the potential questions they may ask you, as well as the potential responses to give. So ask for some time, and usually they're very flexible and they're open to you asking for time to call back. Don't think that the moment they call, you pick up the phone, you have to respond on the spot. That can lead to some, you know, regrettable situations, because then you didn't have enough time to think through what they're asking you. Then you didn't have enough time to prepare your main points that you want to get across to the media. So as best as possible, ask for time to prepare. Think about you can also ask them, what's their story? What angle are they taking the story from? Maybe it's something that's not, that your organization is not hosting something or it's not directly related, but they know that you have the expertise in the area, so they're reaching out to you for a comment. Ask them about the general story that they're writing and what angle. How did they hear about you? Who else are they talking to? Who else do they want to talk to? And what they need to know. Is there a timeline? And suggest that, you know, you call them back or they call you back within 15 minutes. And asking this just helps you to be sure that the responses you're giving, your talk with them will be of benefit to them, but also will position you and your company in a good way. If it's an email, you could, the quicker you respond to their email asking for time, the better it is, because they will know that you're on it. If you dismiss it for a day or so, then that, you know, that reduces the level of trust that the media will have, and then they're less likely to reach out again if something else happens. So build that trust by trying to respond as quickly as you can, asking for time to respond directly to the questions that they may be asking. And sometimes they may have questions, like specific questions they want you to answer. So they'll tell you this is question 1, question 2, question 3. Sometimes they will just give you a general idea. I would like to talk about an investment that's happening between X company and Y company. How do you feel about that? They may not have specific questions in their email, but they'll give you a general idea of the direction they want to take the conversation with you in. Ask questions to be specific so that they're specific about what they want to talk about. Don't allow media to be too generic, where you get into a situation where they can ask you almost anything on the spot, especially if the interview is live. If it's going to be a live interview, you want to be clear of the parameters of that interview, the angle of the interview. So when you get into the interview, they would have already told you where they're heading with it. And so it wouldn't be ethical for them to now take it in a totally different direction. Now, at some point, they may try to get you to answer a question or two that may be outside of scope, and we'll talk about how you can deal with that later. Also be clear on the length of the interview. And I mentioned if other people will be talking as well. That's interviewing the interviewer as you prepare for your interview. So don't think that if the media calls, you can't ask questions, you just need to answer questions. Make sure you're asking all the questions so that you're comfortable when they start asking you the questions. Now, some things to prepare during that time that you ask for, give me 10 minutes and I'll call you back, I'm wrapping up a meeting or whatever it is that you're doing, or give me 10 minutes, let me get some things together and I'll call you back. Just let them know that you're prepared and you call them back. There are some things that you can prepare. So we usually say it's important that your mission, your vision, your values, those things are clear. You could put it on paper, or if you're able to remember it and connect it with what they're asking you about, that would be great. But there are some other value-added things. Your logo, branding, contact information. Sometimes print media or TV, they'll want some kind of visual that they can add to your story. So if you have that handy and available, that would be great. If it's an event, maybe an event flyer would be great to have. And if you have past events similar to one you're hosting now, and you have B-roll, just like footage of that past event, and you're able to add that to a USB for them or share it with them via email, they'll love that. They would appreciate that, because that allows them to do less digging and less work to try to find footage for your story. So your contact information, any branded material and logo, written material or backgrounder would be nice. So the company mission, vision, what you do, that's always good to have as well, have handy to share with media. And a media release, if it's a situation where you're commenting on something, you're giving a statement, it's good to have that media release that you can share with them as well. If there is, based on the story, you think it would be good to have like testimonials from customers, and that's great to have a couple testimonials written down, you can share with them. These are the sentiments from the festival last year. These are the sentiments from the product since we've launched it. These are the sentiments we've heard from the community about the need for this initiative that we're launching. So if you have that, it helps the media to build their story. And it helps you to control the message that the media brings to the audience that you're trying to reach with the story. These are just some of the things that you can prepare. If you send them by email, great. If you have extra USB, as you know, we have things that we give away as branded company stuff, memorabilia, then you could give them a branded USB with it. But most people are okay if you send via email, especially for print and TV. Radio, not so much. They're okay with just you answering the questions because that's all they need really. And think I'm going to transition now to Jill, talking about how do you perform after you've done all this preparatory work, after you put your key messages together, you've got your media package together, you've thought about the importance of your story, the relevance of it to the audience. How do you now prepare for, how do you now perform, when you are in front of the camera or when you're on phone with radio? So over to Jill.
Thank you, Shawna-Kay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Shawna-Kay has also kindly said she would click through the presentation for me. So thank you, Shawna-Kay. So why don't we talk a little bit about the spokesperson? So that would be the next. Yeah. So what is the importance of a spokesperson? So a spokesperson really gives authority to the stories and verifies information. It's also about making an organization or community credible. It also provides a face to a company and really, most importantly, provides an element of real humanity. So I was thinking about spokespeople who we work with, who really provide that, that face. So for example, I would love to see some people put in the chat, who is the spokesperson for Orange Shirt Day? Does anyone know? So that would be Phyllis Webstad. And exactly, Phyllis, yes. Phyllis has given such humanity to Orange Shirt Day and to the Orange Shirt Society, as well as another really wonderful spokesperson I was thinking of was Chief Willie Sellers with Williams Lake First Nation with their recent announcement. Again, really giving that, that humanity. Can anyone, with the recent announcement in the Vatican with the Pope, does anybody remember who the spokesperson was for that? She was wonderful. So that was Cassidy Karen. And again, I really felt working with spokespeople that she was able to articulate her messaging very well and really add that that face to those happening there, to that really, really important announcement. And also the importance of a spokesperson is to provide balance to a story. So reporters are going to be reporting on an event, an announcement, a situation, whether or not you participate or not. So that's why having your voice is always very, very important, to tell your side of the story, to communicate your organizations or your communities' mission and vision, and really getting out that side of the story and building credibility. Thanks, Shawna-Kay. So what makes an effective spokesperson? Well, answering the question. So being prepared to answer, even though questions may be difficult. Dodging questions may cause a reporter to lose trust in the organization. And also answering all those questions show that, of course, you're prepared, and the reporter's feeling satisfied with what they're hearing to enrich their story. Be human is another one. That's something that's really important. You always remember those really human spokespeople, people who show emotion when it's appropriate, people who show a bit of their personality. I know it can be very nerve-wracking being a spokesperson, but I always do tell clients that it's very important to get across their personality. People want to see that. They don't want to see, robotic spokespeople. They want to see people who have personality and who are showing emotion when appropriate. Passion, that's another one. That's another really important part of an engaging, credible spokesperson, to show that passion in whether it be a difficult situation, or if someone is talking about a product or an event that may be exciting, it's really important to have that passion come through. Self-edit, yes. So choosing words carefully. When people are feeling really prepared and they've practiced, it's always important to be able to say that message, but then know when it's appropriate not to keep saying more. So it's that self-edit part is very important. Being available. I've seen, like I said, the story is going to go ahead with or without your participation. Media are on an usually very, very tight deadlines. So an important part of being able to position your company or get your story across is actually just purely the availability of it. I've worked with clients before who said they're available, but then are sometimes not, and that story will go ahead without their participation, which is sometimes a lost opportunity. And being prepared. So again, referring back to Shawna-Kay's talking about messaging. So it's always very important to be prepared. What's your messaging? Practice it. Practice with a colleague, but preparing and practicing that interview, anticipating questions that the media may have is also a really important part of being prepared. So bridging, this is an important technique to know when getting messaging back on track. So often reporters, when they may have an agenda, they want to, get information out of you or take the conversation a certain way. So an important technique to use is bridging, or I've also used the terms transitional phrasing. So an example of that is some phrases are, let's start at the beginning and falling back on that key message, saying to a reporter, that's a great question, but today our focus is on, and then talking about that key message. Also, what I would like to say about that is, and then reiterating that key message. So this is something that that can be a very powerful very powerful tactic to use when trying to get messaging back on track. Thank you. Okay, some do's and don'ts. It's really important to introduce yourself to the reporter and get to know them. I like that little time before I give an interview, it gives me that minute just to sort of calm myself internally, state my name, set the tone, sort of set the cadence of the conversation. And it also kind of helps you get a little more in control of the interview. And when we say get to know them, we don't mean intimately, befriending them, but a little sort of very professional banter it can be nice. How was your weekend? How was yours? And that's totally okay. And sometimes I do like to do that just to kind of have that minute just to calm myself down. Do practice, as we talked about. Do prepare. And I just want to go back to practice. Colleagues, people who have been spokespeople for many years still like to have coaching with us or with colleagues. And when someone's playing the reporter and someone's playing the spokesperson, and it's actually a very, very helpful tool and will really help in the interview. Take control, that's another do. So again, that's just, it's sort of exuding an air of confidence, as well as if media feel that you're in control, they will sort of, be attuned to how you are, and it will just help you guide the interview a little more and get in your key messaging. Take your time. That's a really important one. I have to remind myself to do that too, all the time. And I've seen it with other spokespeople. It's really important. One wants to rush through it because it can be kind of nerve-wracking, but it's really important to take your time, it might feel very long to you, but it's actually sort of just a natural way of speaking, and it will help you feel more in control. Avoiding jargon. So there's a lot of acronyms that government use, military, paramilitary, for example. And it's really important to keep in mind that often the general public do not know what acronyms or certain jargon means. So it's great to avoid that. And using body language, that's another thing. So standing, if you're having an in-person interview, standing quite still, try to avoid fidgeting. It might feel unnatural, but just keeping arms by your side, and it's quite distracting when people are nervous, and it's good to just to have minimal. It's okay to sort of lean in, but just being aware of body language. Thanks, Shawna-Kay. Shawna-Kay, go to slide 19. So okay, so do's and don'ts continued. Look at the reporter, not at the camera. That's something as well. It might be a natural, so people might want to look at the camera directly, but remember to always be engaging with the reporter. Repeat those key messages. So that's your bread and butter during an interview. Those key messages that have been created, those key messages that are written in sound bites. I can go over that a little more, and repeating those over and over again and falling back on those. Repeat the reporter's question. So that's something as well, because it's very nerve-wracking when reporters are asking you questions, and sometimes repeating the question back to the reporter sort of grounds you as well, centers you, and allows things to keep on track. So talking in sound bites. So sound bites are short, succinct statements that stand alone, encapsulate a thought and idea or message in one or two brief sentences. So there's so many examples of great sound bites, but I did find one that I thought I would share that I thought was very powerful. And it was from Cassidy Caron, again, the president of the Métis National Council. When she was at the Vatican, she said, "While the time for acknowledgement, apology, and atonement is long overdue, it is never too late to do the right thing." So that's an extremely, extremely powerful key message, and written again in that soundbite. So media would have recorded that, and from there, because it's so powerful, so well written, they have just taken it and used it in many different mediums, for print, television. So it's really being cognizant of speaking in those very succinct sentences that encapsulate the message that you're trying to convey. Thank them for their time. Yeah, that's an important, thank reporters for their time and their interest. It's a really important way of building relationships with reporters. And thanking partners when appropriate, when you're working with partners, that's also a very important part of media relations. Okay, don't worry. I know that sounds challenging. If you're very, very prepared and have some great messages and practice, and really have some good transitional phrasing, don't worry, you're the expert. They're coming to you because you're the expert. They don't know what you know. So don't worry. Don't worry as much as you might sort of feel in the moment. They are coming to you. You are the expert. You know what you're talking about, and just always keep that in mind. Don't grab the mic. Yes. Don't get too casual. So I have seen that before too. And sometimes media will want to engage in casual banter, and that can be for many reasons. So I always tell clients, you know, you can have sort of professional conversations, but I wouldn't get too jokey sometimes with them. You might say something, because nothing's ever off the record. So you might say something that you don't want to say or that you regret. So don't start joking, which sort of speaks to getting too casual again. Don't speculate on something that you are not the expert on. Yeah, so there's lots of ways to avoid that. It's just simply saying, you know, I can't speculate on that, but what I can say is, and then you fall back on that key messaging. And fall for dead air. That's another trick that media use. I used to fall into it a lot myself. So when they ask a question, and they will often leave long pauses after the question, because it's in our human nature to want to fill those long pauses, because it feels sort of uncomfortable to be in this silence. But I always say to my clients, you know, say your message and then stop talking. And it will feel strange and it will feel long, but media will eventually pick that up and keep going with the interview. So the interview, you know, at a high level, introduce yourself, spell your name, and give your title. And again, that's for many reasons. So when it appears in print or on television, they have your name spelled correctly. It also gives you that time to just have a moment for yourself. Provide the update. Shawna-Kay talked about those 5 W's and 1 H. Answer their questions and end the interview. Again, I usually just say, thank you so much for your time. It's really great talking to you. And it's just a nice way, again, to build that relationship. So with just a few minutes left, the reporter may try to put words in your mouth. So they may try to rephrase things that you have said by saying, you know, so is it safe to say that, is it safe to say, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Or, so what you're saying is, it is absolutely 100% okay to say, no, that isn't actually. So actually what I was saying is, and it's okay to correct, because sometimes they will sort of paraphrase or rephrase, and that might not always reflect the meaning of what you're trying to say. And yeah, so the reporter will often just usually take small bits of the interview. The full interview, especially for television, is usually never aired. It's just small sound bites and some of those great quotes that they'll use. And again, sticking to your key message. Yeah. Finding an out, yes. So this is difficult, but it gets easier when you do it a number of times. But sometimes if reporters are not getting what they want, they'll just keep asking the same question in different ways. It's perfectly okay to say, after you feel that you have answered the questions sufficiently, you know, I feel that I've answered your questions sufficiently. Thank you so much for your interest and your time. And it's really okay just to thank them, say, this is all I have time for today. It was great talking to you. Thanks so much. And just actually physically leaving that interview. So 10 steps to ace the interview. When appropriate, show empathy. Again, that's really showing that human side. Never say no comment. So when you say no comment, it really looks like you're hiding something. You can say, I don't have the answer at this moment, but I'll get back to you with that. Focus on the facts. Emphasize the action that you are taking. Don't ever speculate. Speak clearly and calmly, even though you might feel like you want to be rushing through it. Avoiding jargon again. Rehearse, so important. Again, body language. And know your key messaging. Always know your key messaging. Thank you. And that was everything.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much, Shawna-Kay and Jill, for your presentation. I know we're on the hour, so we don't have any time for any questions, but they did leave their, did I see your contact information in that one slide? So maybe you want to put your contact information in the chat box in the event that somebody has any, oh, there we go. There it is. So feel free. Their contact information is right there to reach out if you do have any questions. I mean, you covered a lot of ground. It was very thorough. I mean, I was like, I wish I had this information, a couple of months ago. There was two pieces that really connected with me, and I'm sure everybody kind of has their own takeaway. One thing I really appreciate what you had to say, Shawna-Kay, was, ask for time to prepare. Like, you don't have to jump through that hoop as soon as they call. Like, I think there's something to be said when you can articulate, where you can like take your time, collect your thoughts, and so that you could tell your message in the best way possible. So I think that's really important. And then for you, Jill, I really liked I don't like pauses. So
I know.
I'm learning. And so I will try to fill that dead air. Yeah. So I really appreciate what you said about that it's okay for there to be a pause, and just learn to be comfortable in that too. So that's one of my takeaways for today too. There's so many other valuable pieces in there. So I thank you both so much for bringing this presentation today to Links to Learning. We just honor what you have to say. And, in the chat box, there's some great comments, some great feedback. Awesome job, amazing information, great presentation. So there you have it. Thank you so much for being with us, everybody. I hope that you have a good rest of the day. I hope that you are walking away empowered, that you're ready to take those interviews from CBC. I get mixed up with CBS because I do watch the States news, but you're ready. And I think just having your message and being able to articulate it. And then at the end of the day, you're just telling a story, and we are storytellers. So thank you so much for your time and your valuable information. So have a good rest of the day. May you all walk in a good way. Get outside, get some fresh air, drink up some of that good water that the Creator has given to us, and just be good and kind to yourself. So have a good rest of the day. Peace.
Thank you.